Have you ever thought about humanity's oldest and maybe biggest project? It's this constant attempt to manage a universe that, let's be honest, doesn't really seem to notice us at all. Today, we're going to look at two completely different cultures separated by a huge ocean that somehow arrived at the same wild conclusion, that if they could just control human death, they could control life itself.
All right, let's just dive right in. Picture this. The year is 1487. Over in the massive, thriving city of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec Empire is at the very height of its power. And their biggest fear? That the sun, the very source of all life, is going to run out of juice. Their solution is pretty direct and, yeah, pretty brutal. They've got to feed it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the planet, European alchemists are wrestling with those same huge questions about life and death. But their approach is totally different. They're convinced the answers are locked away inside the human body, and the only way to find them is to study the dead.
And this is where things get really interesting. You've got these two worlds with no contact, but they're chasing the exact same ambitious goal. I mean, their methods couldn't be more different, right? One is this huge public spectacle, the other is all secret and scholarly. But at the end of the day, their aim was identical, to get a handle on the forces of life and death. And you've really got to get inside their heads here. For them, these weren't just acts of cruelty or some morbid curiosity. For the Aztecs, sacrifice was like a public utility, you know? It was as vital as paving roads or growing food. And for the European alchemists, dissection was cutting-edge research. In their own minds, they were the ones standing between civilization and total chaos, and it was their job to secure the future for everyone. So let's start with the Aztec worldview, because you have to understand their logic to get why they did what they did. We have to dive into their cosmology, this whole system you could almost call cosmic maintenance. And this just reframes everything, doesn't it? For the Aztecs, this wasn't just a religious thing. It was like a law of physics. For them, the math was brutal but simple. A few people dying on the altar prevented everyone from dying in a cold, dark world. It was a terrible transaction, for sure, but in their eyes, an absolutely necessary one to keep the whole universe up and running. And they didn't just wing it. They turned this belief into an incredibly precise, systematic ritual. I mean, take the dedication of the Great Temple back in 1487. This was no chaotic mess. It was a well-oiled machine. Every single step, from climbing the temple at dawn to using special obsidian knives, was perfected over generations, all to make sure the sun got its payment on time every time. And the scale of this conviction, it's just staggering. It's hard to even wrap your head around. Historians still debate the exact figures, but the estimates are somewhere between 4,000 and 20,000 people sacrificed for that one single ceremony. This wasn't some small-time ritual. This was a massive, state-sponsored project. It was their way of showing just how committed they were to holding up their end of the cosmic bargain. Okay, now let's jump across the Atlantic. While all of this is happening in Tenochtitlan, European alchemists are chasing their own kind of knowledge. And this quote says it all. They didn't see themselves as grave robbers or some kind of monsters. No, they were natural philosophers. In their minds, they were scientists on the frontier of human knowledge, totally convinced that the deep secrets of life were just waiting to be found inside the dead. So you've got these two incredibly elaborate human-designed systems, one for cosmic maintenance, one for natural philosophy. Both were built on this idea that humans could manage the world, but both are about to collide, head-on with forces completely outside of their control. For the Aztecs men, the end came so fast. A little more than 30 years after that huge temple dedication, the Spanish show up. And they didn't just bring weapons, they brought germs. The entire system they had built to stop the world from ending was completely powerless against an invisible enemy you couldn't see. And you certainly couldn't sacrifice your way out of. And the result? It was an absolute catastrophe. We're talking about a 90% drop in the population. Think about that. 9 out of every 10 people, gone. Their whole intricate system of cosmic maintenance just collapsed. Not because their gods were angry, but because there was literally no one left to perform the rituals. The entire infrastructure of their belief just crumbled. Now, for the alchemists in Europe, the interruption was way less violent. Their secret work didn't really end in a collapse, it just evolved. As medical schools got more organized, they started providing legal access to bodies for study. So the alchemists' dangerous illegal work just got absorbed into the mainstream. It actually became the foundation of modern anatomy. Their quiet revolution was just institutionalized. And through all of this, Empires rising and falling, beliefs shifting, entire civilizations vanishing. What did the sun do? It kept on rising, every single morning. It turns out the cosmic engine didn't need any human maintenance whatsoever. It runs on something much, much bigger.
So, that begs the question, right? If it wasn't human hearts, what on earth has been powering the sun this whole time? All of that human effort, all that sacrifice, all that secret study, it was all based on a complete misunderstanding of the main character in their whole story, the sun itself. The answer, as we now know, is nuclear fusion. It's a process of unimaginable power happening 93 million miles away from us. For 4.5 billion years, the sun has just been smashing hydrogen atoms together to make helium. It's a self-sustaining reaction that runs on physical principles that have absolutely nothing to do with us. The difference in scale here is, well, it's pretty much impossible to really grasp. Every single second, the sun unleashes the energy of 100 billion tons of dynamite. The grand total of every human sacrifice, every alchemical experiment, it's less than a rounding error in the sun's daily budget. Our greatest efforts just don't even register.
So, okay, these worldviews faded away. Their science was way off. But does that mean it all just vanished without a trace? Not a chance. The consequences of these deeply held, even if they were flawed, beliefs are very, very real. And they're still with us today.
And this is where you see how these beliefs, even wrong ones, leave real scars, and sometimes real legacies. The alchemist's grim work led directly to advances in medicine that save lives right now. And in Mexico City, the physical evidence of cosmic maintenance is still being dug up from under the streets, the actual ruins of the temple and the bones of the people who died there.
And this leaves us with this just incredible image to think about. You've got modern life in one of the biggest cities in the world. Traffic just flowing right over the exact spot where an ancient civilization performed its most sacred duty, a duty they thought was keeping the sun alive, while the sun just keeps rising on its own schedule, completely indifferent to the traffic, the ruins, and the memory of everything that happened in its name.
And that really brings it all back to us, doesn't it? It's easy for us to look back at these beliefs and think of them as ancient history. But how do we today try to manage all the uncertainty in our lives? How do we try to impose a human sense of order on a universe that is so vast, so powerful, and ultimately so far beyond our control? What are our own forms of cosmic maintenance?